Welcome to Learning English with Captain Binoy Varakil, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Joseph's College, Devagiri, Kozhikode, Kerala. Today we discuss the one-act play from the course book Ways with Words, prescribed for the first semester UG students of the colleges of University of Calicut. The one-act play is Something Unspoken by Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams is one of the greatest playwrights of United States of America. Now let's just look at the biographical details of Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams was born Thomas Lanier Williams on March 26, 1911 in Columbus, Mississippi, as the second of the three children of Cornelius and Edwina Williams. He is rated along with Eugene O'Neill and Arthur Miller as one of the greatest American playwrights of the last century. He came to the limelight with the publication of The Glass Menagerie in 1944. A Streetcar Named Desire, 1947, is considered his masterpiece. In 1929, he enrolled at University of Missouri for journalism, but soon he was forced by his father to drop out. Later, he graduated from the University of Iowa in 1938. He began his literary career with one-act plays given in amateur and student performances. His two volumes of one-act plays, 27 Wagons Full of Cotton and Other One-Act Plays, 1966, and Dragon County, a book of plays, 1970, established his reputation as a playwright. Many of his plays, including The Glass Menagerie, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Summer and Smoke, show his sympathy for the lost and self-punishing individual. Other plays like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Sweet Bird of Youth, and The Night of the Iguana deal with the intricacies of Southern families and Southern culture. Williams also published two volumes of poetry in The Winter of Cities of 1952 and Androgyne Mon Amour of 1977. Several collections of prose and a novel was published besides all this poetry. His memoirs, published in 1975, presents an account of his life consumed with guilt, anger, and a sense of failure. Isolated and frustrated women's plight is a recurrent theme in Williams' plays, as it is in the case with Cornelia and Grace Lancaster in Something Unspoken of 1958. This elegant one-act play tells the story of Cornelia Scott, an elderly woman, and her desire to be named the regent of a society club called the Daughters of Confederation. She makes and attends calls from various stakeholders of the society. Both of them are longing for loved one's sympathy, but the wall of silence that has come up between them over a period of 15 years makes it impossible for them to get closer. Something unspeakable between them turns the atmosphere heavy and tensed. Cornelia's high social status and aristocratic demeanor come in her way from having an intimate relationship with Mrs. Grace Lancaster, who has been her secretary for the last 15 years. The 15 roses that Miss Cornelia presents to Mrs. Grace is to commemorate the 15th anniversary of their being together. However, it do not dissipate the silence between them. Even after 15 years of companionship, Cornelia is still reluctant to have an emotional bonding with Grace, lest she will remove the veil of aristocracy that she chooses to observe. The occasion formally is a clear indication of her unwillingness to break the wall of silence. The gift of roses is ironic here. They do not bring in any feeling of warmth between them. Instead, this silent object solidifies the failure of warm, friendly, and meaningful interaction between the two. The play can best be read in terms of Cornelia's pretension to self-importance and pomposity, and her inability to establish any spontaneous and expressive relationship with the others. The play effectively presents Cornelia's life as dull and boring. The only enjoyment in her life is her pretension to self-importance. She enjoys people seeking her opinion about fashion, music, shopping, gardening, and so on. She cannot live without this pretension, for it has become part of her being. She is rather forced to keep her imperious nature intact, and therefore fails to speak freely even to her long-time friend Grace Lancaster. That speaks freely and honestly means admitting she is an ordinary woman, which is unbearable for her. She desires the highest position, the regent in the club, and cannot accept any lower position, as it will, she fears, leave her mediocre. Her sense of loneliness receives a heavy blow when she comes to know that her nomination to the post of regent is rejected, and she appears tragic, shattered, and heartbroken. So this is the introduction to the life of Tennessee Williams, the playwright, and the play Something Unspoken. Now, we have to discuss the play Something Unspoken. Before discussing the play Something Unspoken, let us look at the important characters. It is a one-act play and we don't have many characters. Just like in all one-act plays, we have just two on-stage characters here, and the on-stage characters are Miss Cornelia Scott and Miss Grace Lancaster. As we know, we have to understand the fact that both these characters, Miss Cornelia Scott and Miss Grace Lancaster, are in their middle ages. And Cornelia Scott is the owner of this palatial house or this mansion or bungalow in which the drama is set, and she is wealthy, aristocratic, sophisticated, educated, and she is exactly the society lady who is an active member of the Daughters of the Confederation, which is an association of the women of the southern states of the United States of America, whose kith and kin, whose parents or husbands participated in the Civil War, and she is a member of the Daughters of the Confederation, which is the association of the relatives of the war heroes of the Civil War, Cornelia Scott. And she has a lot of wealth, she has a lot of estates, gardens and houses, and she is very sophisticated, that she knows the fashion of the day, she knows about the recent developments in art, education, literature, culture, music, painting, and she can comment on these developments. Besides, she is proud of being up to date, and she keeps that ego, arrogance, and often she looks snobbish and she can never be down to earth, and because of this reason she fails to maintain a very healthy emotional relationship with her secretary, Miss Grace Lancaster. In fact, Miss Grace Lancaster is known to Miss Cornelia Scott for the last 18 years. 18 years ago, when Grace Lancaster's husband Ralph suffered from some sickness and passed away, Miss Cornelia Scott met her and invited her to join her. And Grace Lancaster, for the last 15 years, was staying with Miss Cornelia Scott, and she has been the secretary of Cornelia Scott for the last 13 years. So we have to remember 3 years, 18 years of friendship between Cornelia Scott and Miss Grace Lancaster. 15 years they have been staying together in the same house, and 13 years Grace Lancaster has been the secretary of Cornelia Scott. And now we have to understand the fact that Cornelia Scott is very active in the chapter of Daughters of Confederation, and she was very responsible and sincere in just fulfilling many of the duties, and she was office bearers, like she was secretary, she was treasurer, and of course the only position she is yet to shoulder is the position of regent. And the day of the play, something unspoken, has a lot of significance, because it has two significance. One significance is this is the anniversary of 15th anniversary of Grace Lancaster and Cornelia Scott staying together, and to commemorate, to celebrate the 15th anniversary of living together of Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster, Cornelia Scott is presenting a rose to Grace Lancaster, and besides the single rose, she has other 14 roses on the table, and 14 plus 1, 15 roses are symbolic of the 15 years they were together. But ironically, as we discuss right now in the introduction, these 15 roses, which are symbols of love, fail to help them have any love, sympathy, empathy, emotional attachment with each other, because it is because of the superiority complex of Cornelia Scott and the inferiority feeling of Grace Lancaster. Besides these two on-stage characters, Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster, we have a number of off-stage characters. And rather than the 15th anniversary of the two characters, the day of the play has another significance, because this is the day of the annual election of the chapter of Daughters of Confederation, and the office bearers are going to be elected. And now Cornelia Scott, who is very active in the Daughters of the Confederation, wishes to be the regent, and she wants to be elected unanimously, or rather she wants to be nominated and elected unanimously. But by the end of the play we understand that her dream remains unaccomplished. She doesn't become the regent of the Daughters of the Confederation, and hence maybe the play is becoming having a tragic ending. Now let's look at the off-stage characters of the play, Something Unspoken of Tennessee Williams. I said on-stage characters and off-stage characters because this play is a play which progresses with a lot of telephonic conversation. Like the conversation between Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster, we have conversations between Grace Lancaster as well as Cornelia Scott with many other characters who are off stage. They are members of the Daughters of Confederation. They are also friends of Cornelia Scott. And let us look at the offstage characters. So the first offstage character is Mrs. Horton Reed. Mrs. Horton Reed is member of Confederate Daughters, and Cornelia is asking the very early morning Horton Reed, Mrs. Horton Reed, to ask Miss Esmeralda Hawkins to ring up Cornelia Scott. So Cornelia Scott is ringing up Mrs. Horton Reed to ask another friend of Cornelia Scott, that is Miss Esmeralda Hawkins, to call Cornelia Scott. Okay, so we have two offstage characters. One is Horton Reed, Mrs. Horton Reed. Another is Miss Esmeralda Hawkins. And Esmeralda Hawkins is a very close friend of Cornelia Scott. And Esmeralda is going to inform whatever happens in the chapter of the Daughters of the Confederation to Cornelia Scott. And that third character we have to remember is a character who is a cousin of Cornelia Scott. And the name of the cousin, who is a novelist, one of the best novelists the South of United States of America has ever produced, according to Cornelia Scott, is Cecil Tutwiler Bates. So this is another character who is referred to in the play, Cecil Tutwiler Bates, of a novelist, the cousin of Cornelia. And next character is Lucinda. Lucinda is the servant of the family, and we have a reference to the absence of Lucinda. Now that Lucinda is not there, Cornelia feels lonely and isolated, and she is insisting on the presence of Grace Lancaster with her all the time. So Lucinda is the servant of the family. She must be a black or colored or Negro because she has gone to the city for a colored funeral. And we have to understand, a colored funeral is the funeral of a black American or a Negro. And next character is Mrs. C.C. Bright. C.C. Bright is a character who is ringing up Cornelia Scott for permission to visit the gardens of Miss Cornelia Scott. So C.C. Bright is seeking permission from Miss Cornelia Scott to visit the garden of Cornelia Scott. Another character is Mrs. Colby, very important character. So Mrs. Colby is yet another member of the Daughters of Confederation, and Mrs. Colby is asking Cornelia Scott if she is willing to accept the post of Vice Regent. And she is offered, Cornelia Scott is offered the post of Vice Regent, and we have conversation between Mrs. Colby and Cornelia. Now we have the character Ralph. Ralph is Grace Lancaster's husband, who died many years ago, and thereafter we have the most important character, or rather another very important character, that is Mrs. Hornsby. Mrs. Hornsby has been referred to as the Dark Horse. Cornelia Scott calls her Dark Horse, and she is also described as nothing succeeds like mediocrity in the play. So Mrs. Hornsby is the new regent of the chapter of Daughters of Confederation, and we have to understand the fact that Mrs. Hornsby just joined the Daughters of the Confederation 1 year ago, and with that short tenure she could make a very good relationship with the other members of the chapter, and she's becoming the regent. And now that Mrs. Hornsby is becoming the regent of this chapter with very short experience in this chapter, that is of 1 year, Cornelia Scott addresses or just modifies her, describes her as a dark horse. And we have to understand that a dark horse is a person whose talents were not known to the people for a long time, but all of a sudden she is becoming very, very successful, and all her talents is known to everybody, and hence she is addressed as a dark horse. But according to Cornelia Scott, Mrs. Hornsby is just mediocre, and she says that these are the days of the success, the success of the victory of the mediocre people, the average people, and she says nothing succeeds like success, or rather nothing succeeds like mediocrity. Nothing succeeds like mediocrity. Okay, now let us look at the play, the very conversations in the play, the very progress of the play, the action of the play, and thereafter we will just go for a discussion of the questions and answers. Okay, so the play, the opening, we have, it is the living room of Mrs. Cornelia Scott. I'll read a bit from the text so that it will be helpful to those who did not read the play. Something unspoken. Characters: Mrs. Cornelia Scott and Miss Grace Lancaster. Miss Cornelia Scott, 60, a wealthy southern spinster, is seated at a small mahogany table which is set for two. The other place, not yet occupied, has a single rose on a crystal vase before it. Cornelia's position at the table is flanked by a cradle fawn, a silver tray of mail, and an ornate silver coffee urn. An imperial touch is given by purple velvet drapes directly behind her figure at the table. A console phonograph is at the edge of a lighted area. At the rise of the curtain, she is dialing a number on the phone. Cornelia: "Is this Mrs. Horton Reed's residence? I'm calling for Miss Cornelia Scott. Miss Scott is sorry that she will not be able to attend the meeting of the Confederate Daughters this afternoon, as she woke up this morning with a sore throat and has to remain in bed. And will you kindly give her apologies to Miss Reed for not letting her know sooner? Thank you." Oh, wait a moment. I think Miss Scott has another message. Grace Lancaster enters the lighted area. Cornelia raises her hand in a warning gesture. "What is it, Miss Scott?" There is a brief pause. "Oh, Miss Scott would like to leave a word for Miss Esmeralda Hawkins to call her as soon as she arrives. Thank you. Goodbye." She hangs up. "You see, I'm going to impersonate my secretary this morning." So this is the beginning of the play, Something Unspoken. We have a conversation between Grace Lancaster and Cornelia Scott at the end of the dialogue. But before that, we see Cornelia Scott, as we read in the play, or as we listen to her, is impersonating her secretary. That is, this conversation of Cornelia Scott is to another person, that is Horton Reed. Horton Reed, and Cornelia Scott is pretending as if she is the secretary of Cornelia. She is, of course, Grace Lancaster. That is it. Because the other person is not going to know that. Because the other person at that moment doesn't know the voice. And now, conversation continues. As the conversation between Grace Lancaster and Cornelia Scott continue, we understand the anniversary of 15 years of togetherness of the two, Cornelia and Grace. We also understand that it is the day of the election of the Confederate Daughters. We also come to know a lot of details about the relationship between the two. As I said in the beginning, we know that there has been no intimate relationship between the two, because Miss Cornelia Scott is all the time very pompous, very, very arrogant and proud, and she is treating to a certain extent Grace Lancaster as a secretary, and Grace Lancaster is suffering from that very, very inferiority feeling. She thinks that, and she says that, okay, I have gone gray, and my the gray color of my hair is of old age, but your hair, hair going gray, Miss Cornelia Scott, is something noble, and your gray of your hair is dignified. So from this again we understand that Grace Lancaster is suffering from too much of inferiority feeling, and she is always haunted by the feeling that she can never stand shoulder to shoulder with Cornelia Scott, and she fails to stand beside Cornelia Scott all the time. She's trying to avoid her. Grace is trying to avoid Cornelia all the time. Maybe for some reasons, like she wants to go to the room to have some tablet, she has to do some work. So with all these lame excuses, Grace is avoiding the company of Cornelia Scott, when Cornelia very much wants the presence of Grace Lancaster. And by the end of the play, we understand that I wanted you all my life. So from this we understand that Cornelia, deep in her heart, wishes to have a very, very emotional, intimate relationship with Grace Lancaster, but it doesn't happen. And now we have the discussions, the dialogues in which we hear about the relationship between Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster. So also Cornelia's great predilection to be elected as the regent. She doesn't want any other post, and that again shows how arrogant she is, and very proud, where she's of course suffering with too much pride. I would say the problem of Cornelia Scott is too much pride. The tragedy of Cornelia Scott is caused by too much pride. I am rich, I am wealthy, I am aristocratic, I have big houses, a lot of estates, and I know a lot of things. I know everything about literature, art, painting, music, and I know about all the changes in recent changes in fashion. So that kind of superiority feeling is just driving her all the time, and because of that reason she fails to have good relationship with her secretary. She also fails to have good relationship with other members in the Daughters of the Confederation, and hence she is insisting on becoming the regent. And today, the day of election, she doesn't go to the chapter because she thinks that maybe in her absence, members of the Daughters of the Confederation may think in favor of her, may be more considerate and compassionate to her, and she could be elected the regent. With that thinking, she is just remaining at home, and she says that she suffers from a nervous laryngitis or a sore throat. Okay, and by the end of the play we understand that no, there is another group in the Daughters of the Confederation, and they are against Cornelia Scott, and Mrs. Hornsby is becoming the regent of the Daughters of the Confederation. Okay, so by the end we see that this play can be, this one-act play can be considered a tragedy because two reasons. One reason, the relationship between Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster doesn't improve. Another reason, the dream of Cornelia Scott is unaccomplished. She cannot become the regent, and she's becoming very disappointed, angry, upset and worried, and she resign from the local chapter of the Daughters of the Confederation. Okay, so the 15 roses on table, the 15 roses she is gifting Grace Lancaster, symbolic of great love, fails to improve their relationship. failed to improve their relationship. Now we will just look at the questions and answers. First we have the objective type multiple choice questions. Dash is the patriotic organization referred to in the play. It is Confederate Daughters or Daughters of the Confederation. Second question, whom did Cornelia call to gather information regarding the election? Cornelia called Esmeralda Hawkins to gather information regarding the election. Now the third question, Miss Cornelia has gifted Grace dash. So we see one rose is gifted to Grace Lancaster. Okay, so it is one rose and we can add something else, but there are other 14 roses. So altogether 15 roses are gifted to Grace Lancaster, but she's just giving one on stage, but we see that there are other 14. So and these 15, 1 plus 14 altogether is 15, is symbolic of the 15 years they lived together, one rose for each of the years they were together. Now fourth question, Dash is the highbrow literary magazine referred to by Cornelia in the play. The magazine referred to is Fortnightly Review of Current Letters. Fortnightly Review of Current Letters. Fifth question, who is the writer cousin of Miss Cornelia? The writer cousin of Miss Cornelia is Cecil Tutwiler Bates. Cecil Tutwiler Bates is the only good novelist who comes from South of America according to Cornelia Scott. Now, who according to Miss Cornelia is the only dignified novelist of the South? Since Thomas Nelson Page, answer is Cecil Tutwiler Bates, her cousin. Next question, number 7. I think Dash is the shadow of Bash, says Miss Cornelia. What? I think Vivaldi is the shadow of Bash. The reference is to musical compositions. Now the 8th question, Dash is the disease which Miss Cornelia is infected with. Miss Cornelia is infected with nervous laryngitis or sore throat. Now we come to the next question, that is second type of questions answered in 1 or 2 sentences. What is colored funeral? A colored funeral is the funeral of a colored, that is a Negro. Colored is the word with which reference is made to black people, Negro people, alright? And the reference is to the funeral of a black or a Negro. And next, what is the Confederate Daughters? Confederate Daughters, as we understand, is an association of women descended from the Confederate veterans of the American Civil War of Southern women. The objects of the Federation are manifold, like to honor the memory of those who sacrificed in the service of the Confederate States, to protect and preserve the historic places of Confederate valor, and to record the role of Southern women during the struggle for independence. Miss Cornelia Scott is an active member and office bearer of this association. Now the next question, what is apostasy? Apostasy, the word refers to renunciation of a religious faith. Renunciation of a religious faith. Here in the play, the reference is to the luncheon offered in the annual election day of the Daughters of the Confederation, and as the conversation between Cornelia Scott and Esmeralda Hawkins progress, we the readers or the spectators understand that some of the ladies of the Confederate daughters are very careful about their diet, like they just want to reduce their weight. They must be rather obese, and in order not to become more obese, they are very careful about their diet, and they don't eat everything, and they are very careful. Okay, so some of the edible delicious items which are more nutritious and having more protein, okay, which is more calorie, is avoided, and that giving up or abandoning, okay, they are just not taking it. So it is referred to as apostasy in the telephonic conversation between Cornelia Scott and Esmeralda Hawkins. Now the next question, the fourth question: what is the significance of 4th of July referred to in the play? 4th of July, as everybody knows, is the Independence Day of United States of America. And here, why do they speak about 4th of July? It is because the characters Esmeralda Hawkins and Cornelia speak about what's happening in the chapter of Daughters of Confederation, and now too much noise is heard from the main office of Confederate Daughters, and Grace Lancaster is wondering whether it is this celebration, isn't it like the Independence Day, because too much noise is being heard, and I wonder what is all this noise is. Are you celebrating? Is there too much celebration? Isn't it like the Independence Day, 4th July? Next question: who is Dark Horse, and who is the Dark Horse mentioned in the play? So a dark horse. Who is a dark horse? A dark horse is a person whose talents were, of course, unknown to others, whose greater abilities were unknown to others. And in this play, the dark horse referred to is Mrs. Hornsby, who is becoming the new regent. And she is referred to as the dark horse because she is a new member, just 1 year of experience in this chapter, and all on a sudden she is becoming the regent, and Cornelia Scott calls her dark horse. Next question, number 6: why doesn't Miss Cornelia attend the annual election meeting of the Daughters of Confederation? She says she suffers from a sore throat, a nervous laryngitis. But we understand that it's a deliberate decision of Cornelia Scott to remain away, and she thinks that things would work out in her absence, thinking that she may be elected the regent of the Confederate Daughters. She doesn't go there. So in fact, she says that she is suffering from a nervous laryngitis, but we understand that she doesn't suffer from too much of sore throat because she is very, very talkative all through the play. She speaks to Esmeralda Hawkins, she speaks to, of course, her secretary Grace Lancaster, and if she had been suffering from nervous laryngitis or sore throat, she wouldn't be so talkative. So this is just a lame excuse for her to remain away, and she thinks that maybe in her absence when her colleagues know that she is suffering from a sore throat, and considering her long period of service in the Daughters of the Confederation, she thinks that she could be elected the regent. So this is just an excuse, right? Next question: music has charms to soothe the savage breast. Who says this, and who is the English playwright who had made such a remark in his play? So this is of course a dialogue by Grace Lancaster. Grace Lancaster says that, secretary of Cornelia Scott, Grace Lancaster says that music has charms to soothe the savage breast, and it is a quotation from the play of William Congreve, and the play is titled The Morning Bride, Mourning, Morning Bride, and it's a play by William Congreve. Next question, question number 8: You look like Emperor Tiberius, says Grace to Cornelia, who is Emperor Tiberius. Okay, so Grace Lancaster on one occasion tells Cornelia's court that Cornelia looks like Emperor Tiberius, and the reference is because to Grace Lancaster, Cornelia is very superior, very rich, very talented, sophisticated, educated. She knows everything, and she feels a lot of inferiority. She has too much of inferiority complex when she is standing beside Cornelius' court, and she says that you are looking like Emperor Tiberius, you are like a monarch, you are like maybe an empress, you are like a queen, and I failed to have a very good relationship with you, conversation with you, and we have to understand who Emperor Tiberius is. Emperor Tiberius is Tiberius Claudius Nero, the second emperor of Rome, and Tiberius Claudius Nero was the emperor of Rome from 42nd BC to 37 AD. Okay, so Cornelius' court has so much of aristocratic, imperial qualities, and Grace is just comparing her to Emperor Tiberius. Now we come to the next question, question number 9. Who are colonial dames? Colonial dames is another association of women in United States of America. The Colonial Dames of America, CDA, is an American organization composed of women who are descended from an ancestor who lived in British America from 1607 to 1775 and was of service to colonies by their holding public office, being in the military or serving the colonies in some other way. So that is about colonial dames, another association of women whose relatives were once serving the country in of course the colonies, like British, the ancestors lived in British America. All right, now we come to the next question. Why does Miss Grace say that the wall of silence between her and Miss Cornelia is impenetrable? Grace Lancaster, the secretary of Cornelia's court, says that the wall of silence between her and Miss Cornelia is impenetrable because this is a wall of silence which is built through a long period of 18 years or 15 years, and silence has gone on for a long period of time, and all on a sudden it cannot be destroyed. This is it. So it's such a very long silence, a silence of more than 15 years. A wall of silence of more than 15 years. How does Miss Cornelia react to the news that she is not elected the regent of the play? At the end of the play, something unspoken by Tennessee Williams, we understand that Cornelia's court is not elected the regent of the Daughters of the Confederation. Esmeralda Hawkins tells her, and when she hears the news that she is not the regent, it is unbelievable for her. It's unbelievable for her, and she is becoming upset, disappointed, and very angry, and she decides to resign from the chapter of the Daughters of Confederation. Now the question, nothing succeeds like mediocrity, does it? When does Miss Cornelia's court make this remark? Miss Cornelia's court make this remark at the end of the play when she is informed that the new regent of Daughters of Confederation is Mrs. Hornsby. Mrs. Hornsby is just mediocre or average. She is in the Confederation for 1 year, and she was just very ordinary, and now she is becoming the regent all on a sudden, and it is unbelievable to Cornelia Scott, and Cornelia Scott calls her a dark horse, and she also says that nothing succeeds like mediocrity. That is, Mrs. Hornsby is just average, and people who are average or below average succeed. They become the regent. That is again the jealousy, the envy, the pride and arrogance that makes Cornelia Scott utter like that. Nothing succeeds like mediocrity. Now we have the paragraph questions. Bring out the relevance of the title, Something Unspoken. The title, Something Unspoken, of the one-act play by Tennessee Williams is appropriate and very, very suitable. No other title can be so effective and convey or communicate whatever is the theme or the ideas of the play. Yes, something unspoken. There is something unspoken, and it's a reference to the silence between Cornelia Scott and her secretary Grace Lancaster, which was all the time there. All these 15 years it was there, all these 18 years it was there, and something unspoken. They failed to speak everything deep in their heart, and now the silence has grown very, very gigantic and enormous, and it has become a wall of silence. And these two are separated by a wall of silence. They are staying together, they're together all the time, but they fail to communicate because a wall of silence has grown gigantic between the two. And it is a wall of silence which has grown up during a long period of time, and hence it cannot be penetrated or destroyed. So the title is very, very appropriate. Now you can add the story aspect as well. Like they were together for 18 years, 15 years, 13 years, secretary and landlady, and because of the arrogance, pride and snobbish, pompous nature of Cornelia Scott and the inferiority feeling of Grace Lancaster, they don't share everything. They just, one is of course right, having this, I am rich, I am wealthy, okay, that kind of attitude, and the other, I am not, maybe my landlady, maybe Cornelia will not listen to me, she may not accept whatever I say, it's not good of me to say, I am ignorant, I am poor, that kind of inferiority feeling of Grace. Describe the lyrical quality of the play. The play, Something Unspoken, is lyrical because it is a one-act play, and most of the dialogues are very short dialogues. Except for 3 or 4 long conversations, almost all the dialogues are very small, and of course it's lyrical because we have short poetry like verse-like conversations, and it is lyrical again because it has a lot of emotion in it, a lot of feelings in it. Most of the characters, like the character Cornelia and Grace Lancaster, they speak emotionally. Their lack of being loved, lack of being understood, and the persona, the I of the speaker is always there, and it is of course very, very subjective a play. So the very emotion they just miss, or rather it is emotional, the play is emotional, and because of that reason it is of course you can say that it is lyrical. And again it's very imaginative too, very imaginative. We go back to incidents before 18 years, we go forward to, okay, regent, Cornelia dreams of becoming regent, Cornelia dreams of having a good relationship with Grace, but Grace too, but it fails, it fails. And now another reason is of course right, we have music in the play. It's lyrical because there is music, there is of course instruments. We listen to the kind of music that is played there, lot of musical compositions of Bach, Vivaldi, and instrumental music, all that is being played, and hence we can say that this play is absolutely lyrical. Okay, now we come to the next question. Comment on the intricacies of the relationship between Miss Cornelia and Miss Grace Lancaster. All the plays of Tennessee Williams deal with the intricacies of a relationship. Okay, the psychological problems of isolated women, women who are lonely, women who suffer from oppressed and suppressed desires. So this play is also very much about the suppressed, oppressed and unfulfilled dreams of women, Cornelia Scott and Grace Lancaster. And the intricacy, the complexity, the problem is because of the psychological background or the mental disposition. Like you can say, we can use the terms of Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung and psychologists and say that one is suffering from, Cornelia Scott is suffering from superiority complex, Grace Lancaster is suffering from inferiority complex. Cornelia is so proud and snobbish, and she's showing off her upbringing, her wealthy background, her estates, her rich and all. So she has that feeling of I am rich, I am educated, I know everything, that arrogant attitude. And because of this arrogant attitude, she cannot be down to earth, she cannot understand, she cannot make a good relationship with Grace Lancaster. Grace, on the contrary, suffers from inferiority feeling. I am poor, I don't have anyone, I don't have any wealth, I'm not educated, I'm not up to date. My landlady Cornelia is very, very rich. She knows everything. She knows music. She knows the recent trends in fashion. She knows about art, literature, and such changes. So these are the problems, the intricacies of the relationship between these two characters, Cornelia and Grace, is caused by psychological or mental problems. Now we come to the fourth question. Snowberry as a mask concealing the wounded inner self of Miss Cornelia. Explain. So snowberry refers to being very proud and snobbish and showing off. Okay, so Cornelia is snobbish. She suffers from too much of self-importance. She suffers from too much of self-importance. She is important to her. Her wealth is important to her. She is always conscious of her wealthy background. She always speaks about her gardens, estates, and wealth, and she speaks about her idea of the recent changes in literature, art, culture, music, painting. Okay, so and even her appearance, she is dressed very well. All that reveals that she is very, very different from the other person. And this is, of course, snobbery. And snobbery is a mask of wounded inner self. So deep inside, Cornelia Scott wishes love. She wishes to have an emotional attachment with Grace Lancaster. She needs to shake hands with Grace Lancaster. She needs to hug Grace Lancaster. But that feeling of being important, being rich, wealthy, educated, and superior prevent her from just maintaining a very emotional attachment with her. Now I explain the use of the symbol of roses in the play. So a rose is always symbolic of love. We gift rose to our beloved or our lovers on Valentine's Days, and we know that rose is symbol of our love for the other person. And in this play, of course, 15 roses for 15 years of staying together of Cornelia and Grace, and now the anniversary of the two, she is gifting Grace, Cornelia gives Grace 15 roses, and the roses are symbolic of love, but there is no love between Cornelia and Grace. Grace fails to love Cornelia. Cornelia fails to love Grace. And these roses, gifts of Cornelia, becomes futile. They fail to, symbolic of love, but no love in heart. So maybe we can gift loads and loads of roses to somebody, but if there isn't love in heart of the two, it becomes futile. So the use of the symbol of rose in the play is effective in the sense that it shows the magnitude of lack of love. Okay, so you should have love, but you don't have it. So that absence of love is very much shown to the audience with the roses. Now we come to the next question. How did Grace differentiate her own grey hair from that of Cornelia? So in the play, Grace says that Cornelia's grey hair is noble grey. It's dignified grey because Cornelia is rich. She has accumulated, accomplished everything. Like she is wealthy, she has rich estates, bungalows, lot of ornaments, good clothing and all. So the grey hair of Cornelia, according to Grace, is a dignified, noble, elegant kind of grey, whereas her grey hair is just grey, going grey of old age. She is just becoming old, but as Cornelia is becoming older and older, she is becoming more and more dignified. So this is again a kind of reference that comes from the inferiority feeling of Grace Lancaster. Now we come to the essay question, and the essay question, of course, students have to answer from all that we discussed so far and the textual story aspect. Now let's look at it's a very textual question. Let's look at the essay question. In Something Unspoken, Tennessee Williams deftly depicts Miss Cornelia's pretension to self-importance and pomposity and her inability to establish any spontaneous and expressive relationship with others. Elucidate. So very obvious, this is a textual question. This play is about the self-importance and pomposity of Cornelia Scott, and because of that reason, she is unable to maintain or to develop a very good relationship with her secretary, Grace Lancaster, whom she takes to her home with the desire or with the purpose that she is going to be hers forever. Okay, so that is the end of the discussion of the questions and answers of this wonderful, elegant one-act play, Something Unspoken. So everybody, please try to read the play and try to understand all the questions and answers. You can write down the questions and answers, learn it, and prepare very well for your examination. Thanks a lot for listening. May God bless you. Bye-bye.